welcome to day one of Sinister, and thank you for coming to the panel. We are now going to bring in Dane Diliegro and have a nice little chat with him. Please welcome him in.
Hi. Hello. It's chilly in here.
Yes, better than it was in June. Did they spell it wrong?
No, they did not spell it correctly.
Okay.
It's okay. This is not how you spell my last name.
I will.
That's what happens when you're an Italian guy. Business run by Jews. Just kidding. I'm also Jewish, so
My maiden last name is actually very Sicilian, and they butcher it all the time. So
yeah, it's tough. It's not easy. It's not easy.
So let's start with you being a basketball player with a pretty great history of all the things that you've done, and moving into acting. How did you get to be invited to be a stand-in for Free Guy from basketball?
Yeah, so I played professional. I'm from Boston, outside of Boston, Lexington, Massachusetts. By the way, my sister's here. This is my sister, Dario. She lives in Marin. She made the drive.
Nice.
And I stayed at her house the past couple of days, so she's here. I'm from outside of Boston, Lexington, Massachusetts, and I was a basketball player for a very long period of time. And I played professional basketball for 8 years. And in the summer of 2019, I was just training for my next season of basketball because I was a 30-year-old, young, spry, athletic professional basketball player. And I got a phone call from Boston Casting because I had applied to a newspaper advertisement looking for someone to play Slender Man, which they shot in Worcester, Massachusetts. And I sent in the tape, I sent in my info to them, and they ended up casting Javier Botet, which rightfully so, he's like one of the greatest movie monster actors ever. But they still had my info, so they called me, hey, you're the tallest guy we know locally. Can you come in as a stand-in for this movie, this Ryan Reynolds movie we're shooting called Free Guy? And I said, sure. And I hung up the phone and I Googled, what is a stand-in? And a stand-in, for those who don't know, you're the person who stands there when they're setting up the lights and camera in between scenes. So the main actor, how dare they? They shouldn't have to stand there the whole time. So they can go sit down and rest, and you're a stand-in. You stand there while they focus the cameras and all of that. Well, they never used me, and I was talking to the stunt coordinator and the producers, and they're like, you should look into acting. And okay, and I was going to LA the next week anyways to pitch a culinary travel television show because I wanted to be the next Anthony Bourdain. And I ended up getting in contact with some other producers, and I booked I almost said the streaming service, I'm not allowed to say it. It's the biggest streaming service, and they're the biggest a-holes when it comes to paying us. But it's a Korean show, and I played a character called Muscle Monster on that. So like a month later, I was off to Korea to shoot the show. And that's where I just came to LA to try this thing out, and I got pulled into it, and that was 4 years ago, and I'm still here doing it. Yeah, and that's kind of the story of how that happened.
Did you ever think that you would go into acting being a basketball player? Did you ever have an inkling to want to do it before that? I mean, I know you had the idea for the show, but as part of that, like just being like a straight up actor, did you ever have a desire to do that?
I don't know, was I an actor growing up? Yes, my sister says yes, I was an actor.
Give us all the dirt.
Growing up, being on camera. I don't know. I don't know if I was like, I want to be an actor growing up, but like I knew I wanted to be on camera, I suppose. So in what form, I don't know. But it just felt right to me. And listen, I played basketball for 20 years. Acting just felt right. It's also significantly less sore all the time. So like I do love acting, but I miss the competitiveness of basketball. So like I'll be in LA just like trying to compete with people, like driving, like I'll just turn it into a race or a competition when they don't even know.
Not
The other
hard to
car
do
doesn't
in
even
LA.
know that they're racing me. I'm racing them. But yeah, acting just feels right, I suppose. I'm like, it's like a challenge that I like pursuing, telling all these crazy stories with really incredible filmmakers. And it's like an honor that people are now asking me to help them tell their stories, I suppose. So I guess I'll just keep doing it, right, until I get bored of that.
Yeah. So knowing that you had been in basketball for so long, that obviously just was like a second fit for you, second nature. You did it, you knew it, you were skilled in it, you had it down. How was that transition going from basketball into acting? Like, was that a weird transition for you to go from like such a super disciplined like health, and you gotta get out there and practice, and you gotta drill, and then you know what your competition is, to going into a movie where you're kind of dealing with someone who's giving you some direction, but it's not like second nature for you at that point?
It is 90% the same thing.
Really?
Yes. In that, especially for non-human characters, which I want to play human characters, that's what I'm striving towards right now. But especially non-human characters, I'm still a pro athlete. My mobility, my strength, my conditioning, my endurance are all factors that come into play. In order for me to portray a character, especially one that you have to wear a heavy suit in, you have to be in fantastic shape. I have to be flexible. So a lot of yoga, a lot of strength and conditioning, a lot of cardio. I'm still doing those things anyway. Then you show up to set, and your producer is your GM. Your director is your coach. My castmates are my teammates. It's the same thing. And one common goal: win a championship, make a good picture. And like playing a role on a basketball team is the same thing as playing a role on a cast of a show. Because if I'm a side character and I come in and start acting like the superstar, people are like, "What are you doing?" If I'm on a basketball team and it's not my job to do certain things, and I come in and start dribbling and shooting, and people are like, "Well, what are you? This is not why we brought you here." So they're quite similar. The 10% where it's different is there is immeasurably more politics involved with entertainment. Athletics is a meritocracy. You can work hard, improve your jump shot or your speed, and like it's right there. There's a metric. You're faster. Your statistics are better. Acting, there's no. It's funny. My first day on set, I was like, we were done, and I was like, well, how did I do? Like, what did I? There's no stat sheet. I needed a stat sheet. I needed to look over and see how I did.
Right.
People are like, you did a good job. I'm like, no. I need to know. There's a piece of paper there that has all of the stats, and I wasn't getting that. So that's where it was a little bit different. It was a bit of an adjustment for me, I suppose, making the transition. But like, yeah, 90%, it's really the same thing.
So you didn't just have like your stats in front of you to show improvement or where you might have like bounced out, and you're just like free, like,
no,
okay.
there's like, out of like 7 takes, he hit 5 of them. He hit his mark.
I need a percentage.
No, yeah. The only statistic is like how well did the movie do? I suppose. Like, oh, he was in this movie and did this. That's kind of, yeah. There's like a metric there, I suppose.
So as you mentioned, conditioning and everything, and being able to wear part of a suit and be in that costume, I heard that for this particular character, the headpiece was about 15 pounds.
Yes,
And you were essentially blind while filming.
Yeah, so I shot a movie that came out last year that the SAG strike prevents me from naming by name. But I shot a movie that probably why all you are here right now. I understand, yeah, you got a thumbs up in the back. And yes, the suit was about 65, 70 pounds of foam latex, and the head weighed 15 pounds. Now, I know 15 pounds doesn't sound like much, but I want all of you when you go home tonight to take something that weighs 15 pounds and hang it from your head for 45 minutes. And I want you to just stare at your feet, because that's what I did. This particular character, my head was in the neck of this character, because this head was filled with 27 servos, which are motors that drive the animatronics. That I had 4 puppeteers. There were 4 people controlling the face of this particular character. So there's a lot of weight up there. And in in order for this character to look forward, I have to look down at my toes so I can see maybe a 3-foot ring of space. Now, in this film, I am running, I am swinging heavy objects, I am fighting people, and I'm fighting people who are a lot more important than I am. So, in a scene where I'm on when you shoot a movie, you have what's called the call sheet. The call sheet is you get that every day, where you're shooting, your call times, what time you have to show up, what's for lunch, blah, blah, blah. Everyone's contact info. Now, the star of the movie is the number 1 on the call sheet. They're the first one, right? They're getting picked up at 10 o'clock. They show up on set at 11:30, hair, makeup, blah, blah, blah. Now, anyone you're fighting who's above you on the call sheet, it's your fault 10 times out of 10. So if I'm fighting a character who's above me on the call sheet and I can't see them, and they say, I'm going to intentionally get hit by this person, by Dane, for this take, it's my fault. If I'm swinging something and they have to duck and they don't duck, it's my fault. It was terrifying. The amount of choreography and rehearsal we had to do. Keep in mind, remember I talked about 15 pounds? That 15, still hanging on my head, by the way, you know? So there's a lot of factors that come into play. This particular character, just to make him not look stupid, I had to do this weird hunch thing, just to stand up, you know, normal. Then he's running, he's walking, he's climbing, he's fighting, and it was an interesting challenge, I suppose. But I'm glad I did it. I'm glad it turned out well.
And piggybacking off of that, I know that you did a lot of prep work for that. You had done some mime school, you had done some parkour lessons, you were doing neck strengthening, and some martial arts, right, to all prepare for that role. So you're learning all these extra skills while being in this costume and still having to portray this character while looking at your feet.
Yeah.
And doing all the movements. And then you did a lot of the stunt work, correct?
I did all the stunt work.
Yeah.
You know, and you're forgetting the hikes with 70-pound weighted vests and all crazy stuff I was doing. Yeah, I just kind of went all in for this particular character because it was so, the further away from human you get, the harder it is to portray a convincing character in that sense, right? So if you have really long arms, if you have, you don't walk normally like a human, you just, if you don't pay attention to those things, you just have a dude in a suit, and that's what I was trying to avoid at all costs. So I kind of took my pro athlete mentality and applied it to the preparation of this character, i.e. mime school, I trained in parkour, I trained in martial arts. I was actually working at the Waterworld stunt show at Universal Studios Hollywood, and I got fired because, I didn't tell you this, I got fired because I wasn't paying enough attention to my time at Waterworld, and they knew I had booked this movie. So I came in one morning, every morning I'd come in and I'd go for a run through the Universal Studios back lot. When you work at Universal Studios, you can just go into the back lot where they're shooting movies. It's amazing. And I would go with a hoodie and a weight vest, and every time one of the tours would drive by, you take your hoodie and go like this. And they go, who's that? Who's that? You know, like they think it's a special actor. No, I'm just at Waterworld. And I went on my run, and I went to my locker, and they said, Dane, can you please come into the office? I said, sure. I sat down. I said, what's going on? And I'll boil it down. They were like, we kindly have to ask you to focus on your movie. And are you firing me? Well, no. I'm like, okay, well, what am I supposed to tell my mom? Okay, we're firing you. And they let me go because I was devoting so much time to the preparation of this character. I was missing out on the firearm safety classes and the water safety classes, and I was let go from Waterworld, which is a fun fact. I don't think I've ever publicly said that, but it was very time-consuming, the preparation for that character. I don't even know if that answers your question, but
I would much rather get let go of Waterworld to make the film that you made.
Sure.
I think it was worth it in the end.
It was a good trade-off. They're like, when you finish the movie, you can come back and work for us. And then I came back and they're like, you can't work for us.
You're like, that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
So the director of this film commends you in numerous interviews for your work ethic and your ability for a greater attitude and how you can just come in and just put your head down and work. Do you attribute that to basketball and working with coaches, or have you always been like that?
Yeah, I mean, kind of like what I talked about before, taking direction, receiving coaching as a pro athlete is literally just taking direction. Yes, you have to be talented. Yes, you have to be able to read specific situations in a game on how to perform. But you have to let your superiors know that you are bought into their system and you believe in what they believe in. So if my superior or my director is telling me what to do and I don't necessarily agree with it, I still have to do it to the best of my ability, like I am 100% bought into and believe in what he's telling me to do, whether I agree with it or not. And that can be very tricky. Someone telling you to do something that you don't agree in. I'm sure anyone here who's married can understand. Like, I'm not married, but just doing something at 100% when you don't necessarily agree with it. Now, I agreed with everything Dan said, so it was super easy for me. But yeah, my professional basketball background definitely paid and continues to pay dividends when it comes to my acting career and being on set and just being someone who can take direction.
So you've done many other roles, and you've done, some different characters.
You can say them, I can't.
Okay.
You can talk about them.
I'm just trying to be respectful.
Sure, no, yeah.
So you have played Protein in Sweet Home, you played Master Chief for an Xbox commercial, you were in a Doja Cat video.
Maybe.
And then you have Bigfoot, which just came out October 6th in Monsters in California.
Yeah.
How have these experiences been for you?
It's funny, Monsters, I can talk about Monsters in California because it's not behind a Struck studio. I shot that so long ago. I shot that like before the pandemic, maybe during. And like for the long, and Tom DeLonge, who's the lead singer of Blink-182, who was the director of this movie, he like followed me on Instagram after and like we messaged back and forth. For the longest time, like, when's this movie coming out? He didn't know. No one knew. What was your question?
How have these experiences been?
Oh, they were great. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. The music video with Doja Cat was a lot of fun. This is before she like shaved all of her hair and kind of went off the reservation a little bit. But she was cool. It was great. Yeah, it's an interesting thing coming from. You go through life and you never really know where you're gonna end up. And I'm so grateful to play professional basketball and be in front of 30,000 people. Let me tell you, there's really nothing more special than, there's one thing more special than 30,000 people screaming at you, cheering for you, and that's silencing 30,000 people when you're on the road. We were in Serbia one time, and these people were throwing batteries at us on the court, and we beat them. And it was silencing 30,000 people is a very special experience. But the point I'm getting at is, if someone had told me after this Serbia game that, hey, you're gonna be in music videos and movies, I would have said you're completely crazy. And just looking back now, that in my long, illustrious 4-year acting career, it's like I'm so grateful that I've done all these things, and everything you do in your life leads you to right now. And right now I'm sitting here talking to you guys, you're sitting here listening to me, and it's a very heartwarming and special thing that, and especially this other movie we were talking about, that I got to be a part of that, and it just was received so well. And, I was kind of handed the keys to the castle on this very iconic character that is loved by so many people. And 20th Century and Dan, our director, oh my God, okay, I'm gonna stop talking about studios, gave me the responsibility for this, and I'm grateful for that. So it's been good.
So let's throw a little bit of a curveball at you.
Sure. Rice Krispie treats are my favorite food. Oh, okay, sorry.
If you could play any role in cinema,
Jason Voorhees.
Is that
Jason Voorhees. There's not even. You didn't even finish the question.
No.
Yeah, Jason Voorhees by far. I know all the movies. I know all the history. I know all the actors that played him. He's the background of my phone. I was him for Halloween like 4 years in a row, from age 7 through like 11. I can't dress up as him now because it'd be too scary, I think. But yeah, Jason
I say
Voorhees.
do it.
Yeah.
Dress up as him, do
But
it.
if I dress up as Jason Voorhees, it's got to be like full-on Hollywood makeup. It's a whole process.
We got a whole team in there.
I know.
I'm sure they would love to.
I know. Well, Halloween's great, but I have my sights set on other things. If you get what I'm saying. So we'll see. But other than Jason Voorhees, I'd love to just play like a doctor or a dentist or a lawyer.
Just something normal.
Yeah, I don't know. If Peter Dinklage can be the Toxic Avenger, why can't I be a dentist? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
It would be nice to just like do 10 minutes of makeup and wear a t-shirt all day sometimes. Yeah.
Who is your dream actor or actress that you would love to work with?
Ooh. I mean, Jim Carrey would be great. Vince Vaughn. Yeah. I feel like comedic. You gotta go comedic. Jamie Foxx, something like that. You know, just someone I can really take a lot of notes from. I feel like would be an exciting person to work with. One of those
Awesome.
guys.
Okay. Biggest celebrity crush?
Dua Lipa.
Yeah?
Yeah, I really have to think about that one. Dua, if you're in the crowd now.
We'll put a TikTok out for you.
Yes.
So going back to basketball, you played Lexington High School, and is it Worcester? Or is it-
We are so on the West Coast, it's like hilarious.
I know.
You're from California?
Yes.
Yeah, of course you are. Worcester.
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 That's why I asked.
We're gonna make burgers stand. We're gonna Worcestershire sauce. No, it's not Worcestershire. Worcestershire. No. Worcestershire. Worcester. Is that Gloucester? No, it's Gloucester, right?
So you went to the academy there.
Worcester Academy, yes. That was just 1 year because I wasn't ready for college. So
Right, and then you went into the University of New Hampshire.
Yes, I got a scholarship to play basketball there.
When did it become apparent to you that you had NBA greatness and potential in you?
That's a great question. You know, I went through UNH. I have a degree in business and development. Tourism, business, and development. And what that means is I wanted to open up a chain of surfboard rental shops in Waikiki, Hawaii. And I realized someone thought of that before me. And right about my sophomore or junior year, they were like, "You're pretty good, you can play pro." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And then I got an agent my senior year, and then like 2011, my fourth year of college is when I was like, okay, professional basketball, that was in the cards here. I get to put off getting a real job for as long as possible. And then I played 8 years pro. So yeah, it was fun. It was great. I got to be a child until I was 30. And then I had to start paying bills and stuff.
So who are some of your NBA greats of all times for you? Inspirations for basketball? Who?
Ben Wallace, who played for Detroit Pistons. You know, there's the age-old question, like, who's the greatest player ever, right? Who's the best player? It's obviously LeBron or Michael Jordan, okay? This is where I stand on this. Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all time. LeBron is the best basketball player of all time. LeBron, when he's on the court, lifts his team up. He like tripled Michael Jordan's assists. He's a better player. He's also like, he's the same size as me, he's 20 pounds heavier. LeBron is a better player than Jordan. Jordan is greater. Jordan is 6-0 in the finals. He's the greatest, most glorified player ever. When you refer to the Michael Jordan of in any field, everyone in this room knows what I'm talking about. Oh, he's the Michael Jordan of skateboarding. He's the Michael Jordan of playing monsters in movies. That is the best possible thing in a field, the Michael Jordan of, the greatest thing ever. So Jordan's greatness outweighs LeBron's skill, but no, LeBron's greatness, but LeBron is a better player than Jordan. Also, two completely different eras in basketball. But those two guys I take a lot from, I suppose, and Ben Wallace as well. So.
Nice.
You play basketball.
I did. I played varsity all 4 years of high school.
Look at you. Where'd you go to? You've been to Gloucestershire, Worcester High School?
No, I went to.
Marin Catholic County.
No, I went to. It's called Thomas Downing High School. It's in Modesto, about an hour and a half.
Modesto. Wow, that's where the Trader Joe's distribution facility is, right? Is that right?
No, it's where George Lucas is from, though, and where American Graffiti was filmed.
Oh. Wait, but Trader Joe's, I'm pretty sure if you look on the back of every Trader Joe's package, it says Modesto, California.
Wait,
That
is it
could be.
Modesto, California, or is it Modesto, Indiana, or Illinois?
I want to say it's, what? Oh, Monrovia. Oh, I'm from the East Coast. I'm sorry, it's Monrovia.
I was like, we don't know anything about Trader Joe's.
Oh,
We
I'm
have
sorry.
one, but that's about it.
Okay, yes, yes.
So
Yeah, but George
I-
Lucas, yeah, that's right, because ILM, the whole deal. That's right, that's really
American
cool.
Graffiti, George Lucas,
Mhm.
Lacey Peterson, for those who know.
Lacey. Or went out for Lacey.
So yeah, I played a lot of basketball. I did Magic Johnson's basketball camp. I did Kobe's camp. Byron Scott.
It's cool.
So my dad was actually drafted for the NBA and then blew out both of his knees. He was going to play for the Lakers and never did. So basketball was in my blood. My uncle was the NBA entertainment commissioner for a while.
Wow. You're more ingrained in basketball than I am.
Basketball was everything.
You still hooping?
A little bit.
Okay.
I've been 6'1" since the 6th grade, and
Hey,
it was always everything that I did. I grew up with a bunch of boys and just played all the time. So
it's the best sport. It
I love
really
it.
is.
I love it.
It requires everything. Talent, athleticism.
Don't exactly have the same views as you as some of the players, but
Why? What do you?
I'm not a LeBron fan.
Everyone's not a LeBron fan, of course, but his like skill is undeniable. His effectiveness.
It's not his skill. I think it's
You
some
think he's
of
a
the way
baby?
the way that he carries himself on the court. I think his tantrums and his crying and some of that. I think it goes beyond passion.
If I submit to you, if you were the greatest. Hey, thanks for coming, by the way. Thank you.
Oh, that's
Thanks for coming. No, I'm joking. If you were the best basketball player in the world, 8 billion people, you were number one. I don't know about you, but I would probably act the same way.
I don't think so.
There's a level of like knowing, like you're talking about like his cockiness and how good he says he is.
So every player, you've had Kobe who went through his cocky phase.
I know we're at a horror convention. I know.
Sorry.
But like, this is the last time I said that. LeBron is my height, and he's like 270. Every time he goes to the basket, he's getting fouled.
Right.
Whether you see it or not, he's getting fouled.
Right.
Can you imagine that someone, just this, impedes your shot? He's getting hit every single time, and they're not calling it. Why? Well, you're big. You're LeBron. You don't get fouled. I would complain about that too. He's getting fouled.
Right. But there's a way to go about it without having a tears, throwing a mega tantrum. Yes, be mad, be angry, and be like, hey, you need to fix this, but like the over outlandish part of it and all of it, it just turns me off from basketball. It takes away the love of the game where
Sure.
you've seen so many greats before him go in and have as many of the same things and carry themselves differently. And now with social media and everything that we have in our world today as a different world from basketball from when it was when Jordan was playing or those guys, even the start of Shaq and Kobe coming, you know what I mean? Social media wasn't as crazy as it is now. Every single one of those moments is captured forever now.
He's also been famous since he's like 13 years old. So like, they say you stop maturing once you become famous. And in the grand scheme of like best players ever or whatever, like LeBron, it could be a lot worse. He builds schools, he doesn't really get into trouble off the court, does a lot of pretty good things. Like, and his outreach is pretty vast and like positive.
And I'm
No
not
gambling issues, nothing like that.
not doubting those things, and I'm not saying that. It just turned off to me to watch him play and have those outbursts.
Fair enough.
When you have hundreds of other guys that are playing the game as well, and they're not doing the exact same. You don't have
Not
hundreds
as good
of
as
people.
LeBron.
Doesn't matter.
I'm willing to bet if you spent 15 minutes with him and watched him work out for an hour, your views on that would change. If you just spent 15 minutes around this guy and was in his ethos and the way he conducted his workouts, and the way his work ethic, and the way he treats the people around him. He'd be like, I kind of respect
I
him.
literally stopped watching basketball games because of him.
LeBron, if you're out there right now.
Sorry, LeBron, but it's just how it makes me feel.
Back to horror.
Okay, back to horror. So,
Sorry, guys. Horror and sports, not really, you don't really see it much.
no, but
No,
I think
we
it's
don't.
fantastic.
Yeah, it is. This is the culmination right here. This is like the apex, the amalgamation of sports and horror.
I like the different dynamics of it.
Yeah. Because I know you all came here to hear about LeBron.
Sorry, you guys. So now that we have, you've gone from Parade and the other features that you've done, is there any upcoming projects that you have that you can talk about, or anything that in the future that you would?
Nothing that I can talk about. There are things coming. There's a production company that predominantly does scary movies that I took a part in one of their films that's coming out in February. If you look on Wikipedia, I'm sure it's all there. There's another extremely successful and famous intergalactic franchise.
I could say that one.
I mean, yeah, it's in a galaxy far, far away. It's coming out in the spring. I'm in like an episode or two for this show. You won't recognize me. But yeah, it's just so quiet right now because of the strike, everything that's
Yeah.
going on, and we're all just kind of on the edge of our seat, waiting. We have the nanny leading the pack for us, Fran Drescher. We got you, Fran. Thank you. So yeah, hopes are high. I'm optimistic, and yeah, I don't know. I only have like 8 credits. I've only done like 8 or 9 films.
That's
I
okay.
think. Yeah,
Because the one is pretty significant and it's pretty awesome.
that's true. That is true.
I mean, as a fan of Predator, I'm even wearing a Predator t-shirt underneath this, you guys. It's just really cold in here. As a fan of Predator, the version Prey that Dane did is probably the only version that I fully sat through and was like aware of everything happening, because it just grasped my attention so amazingly.
Yeah. Well, no, I just think the one thing I'll say about that is, and I'm not talking about that particular movie because I'm not supposed to, but I just find that if you do the 5th version of a franchise, which is a very beloved IP, first of all, genre fans are wolves. They are wolves. It is insane. You're dealing with the most passionate, critical, most detail-oriented people ever. And I respect it. I'm a horror fan, sci-fi fan myself, and I understand. And there's one detail that's off. You got it wrong. It's not easy to get it right. That's all I'll say. But the thing that makes a good extension of an IP great, that worked for us, was that it's not, just, I'm going to say the word once. It's not a Predator film. It's just a sci-fi adventure movie. There just happens to be my characters in it. And I think that's what makes it nice, because nothing about it's gratuitous. There's nothing forced. And you watch a lot of these remakes and prequels and requels and sequels, and they're like shoving it down your throat. And I think, my character is only in that movie for 12 minutes, which some of you might not have realized that, but if you can just make it 12 effective minutes, that's where the magic, I think, comes in. Staying true to the franchise, but also keeping things fresh. Thank you, guys. We have lunch coming. So that's kind of like a nice little recipe that we had.
Nice. Okay, so I'm going to open it up to a couple of questions for you guys. Anybody have any questions for Dane? Yeah, go ahead.
With Kevin Peter Hall being the first iconic Predator, what was it like stepping into that role, knowing how iconic that role is?
For those who didn't hear, he asked about Kevin Peter Hall playing an iconic character. What was it like for me, essentially following in Kevin Peter Hall's footsteps?
Exactly.
I can't answer that question directly, but what I can say is, when it comes to playing a character that is established and iconic and has a lot of those genre eyes on it, I was lucky because my version of this character was a little bit different, and I was given a very high ceiling of creativity in terms of creating how this character moves, his fears, what motivates him, what drives him, what he wants. So I was kind of, I was lucky in that I didn't have to do a version of what the first person did, which you see very often in sci-fi and horror extensions and remakes. Yes, and it's like, if you're not replicating what that character did, it's a tricky dance, right? Because it's like, oh, you didn't do what that character does. But then if you do that, they're like, oh, there was no creativity in what you did. So you really can't win at the end of the day, kind of what it boils down to. So yes, I was aware that this was a very heavy weight on my shoulders, but I was also refreshed in that I was given parameters that I can kind of operate in that weren't necessarily the same thing of this original thing that I just had to copy and replicate.
It's like they gave you the opportunity to make that iconic character your own.
Exactly. And especially when you're playing a non-human character, it's very difficult to inject yourself into that character because as a non-human actor, like you're supposed to disappear. Like my job is to not indicate to anyone, oh, there's a guy in there. You know how many people I meet, they go, I didn't realize there was a guy in there. Okay, well, it's a movie. It's a movie. But like the idea is like, oh, it's just that thing. There's no one inside there. So you're right. Like I was able to inject a little bit more Dane than usual, I suppose, if it was just a carbon copy of that thing. And I'm grateful for that because, it's like, I just feel like if it were that same thing, people would be like, oh, you did a good job doing what he did. Whereas this was like, oh, you did a great job coming up with your idea, but also staying true to what is already established.
And that also helps keep the character in everybody's mind. Because they're not seeing the same old, you're interjecting something different into the character.
Right, yes, exactly. That's kind of it. It's tough because it's like, you want the original, just watch the original, but it's a tricky dance. I call them predophiles. They're tough people. The predheads out there, man. They are a nitty-gritty bunch, and I respect and appreciate all of them. But whew, they are dynamic, let me tell you. So.
Okay, do we have any more questions? We have time for one or two more questions. Yeah, go ahead.
I know you said that you did, this is a two-part question. You said that you did a lot of your stunts and everything. Not to spoil the movie, but that part where you lift the bear, do you actually lift something?
So the question was, he knows I did all my own stunts. And the question was, did I actually lift up a bear? No, I didn't. For any time, if I'm playing a character and that character is invisible by chance, I'm typically wearing a gray pajama mocap suit. I'm not in a practical costume. And what I will do is they will put these inertia movement sensors all over my body, and my movements become that character's movement. So I could pick up, it's like, there you go, it ties back to mime school, like picking up this thing, and it's like, it just is so heavy, and they get the motion of that, and they can digitally put that into the movie. So yeah, so for any, if I was playing any invisible or cloaked characters, what I think they would do is we would go to like a parkour or free running warehouse, and I would do all the movements of that thing that are required for that picture, and then they would digitally take those and place them in the movie, and then they would apply that to my scan of my character, and then you just have the character doing the exact same movement that I did. Yeah, so I would go to a free run academy for like 6 hours and do every single motion that this character does in the movie, which I may or may not have done. It was taxing, very taxing. Standing up, kneeling, walking, breathing, standing, slashing, everything. Everything you see and everything you didn't see that didn't even make it in the movie was your boy.
What was the trickiest stunt you had to do for any of the movies?
It's a great question. The trickiest stunt I ever had to do, well, at Waterworld they lit me on fire for training. that was pretty cool. I got my arm lit on fire. I would say in my first role ever, the show I did in Korea, I was wearing an 80-pound foam latex costume, and I was chasing someone down a corridor, and this guy was standing in front of a mirror, in front of a window on like the 13th floor, and at the last minute, he jumps out of the way just as I'm reaching for him, and I was wearing this practical costume, and I like reached for him, he jumped out of the way, and then I went through glass and fell through the glass and flipped over and fell and landed on a pad, a green screen pad, but it was tricky because I'd never gone through glass before. The glass was also sugar glass, and I don't know if any of you know what happens when you smash sugar glass. It turns to this really fine powder and dust, and you have to close your eyes and stop breathing, because if it gets in your eyes and you breathe it in, that's booger sugar you don't want, I can tell you. And so that was very trying for me. And they didn't want me to just like dive through the glass. They wanted me to like hit the ledge and then kind of like topple over the ledge and then flip out with my legs. And it was terrifying because they only had 2 panes of glass. And the first time I screwed it up. So the second time it was do it or like you're in big trouble. And the setup took a long time in between. So it was definitely a tense moment for me. But yeah, going through the glass. Anytime you go through glass is a tricky thing.
Go ahead.
Do you have a favorite kill?
Oh, yes. Do I have a favorite kill? Probably there's a movie I shot where I'm choking a guy up against a tree, and he's starting to pull out a knife, and I notice his little knife there, and I look at him, and I had a shield that comes out of my wrist, and I just deployed the shield, and it not only cut off his head, but also severed the tree top off, and then the shield, everything fell, and I just looked at it like, huh. Okay, and then walked away. That was probably my favorite one.
Super epic.
Yeah, that was my favorite scene to shoot ever. Very, very difficult scene to shoot, but because I did it blind. But it was very fun.
Okay, you guys, well, this is our time for our panel, so thank you, Dane, for answering our questions and talking to us. If you guys want to come back out of this table in a little bit, please stop by, chat with him some more, follow him on social medias.
Yeah,
And,
Instagram. It's just 2 Ds on Instagram.
Yeah, and thank you for coming in, and we'll see you guys later for the rest of the panels.
Thank you.